You're late for a test again. School is difficult. You're making projects and yet it seems to be not good enough. What if I told you you can master that? What if I told you that you can survive school? We're gonna talk about that and more here in the new episode of Think Out Loud. Good day everyone, welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Think Out Loud, Minds at the Mic, where we talk about life, school, and whatever thoughts come to mind, providing a platform for your ideas. I'm your host, your speaker, your friend, Mark Rebollido. With that out of the way, let's get right into the topic. So, to start off our Season 2, I think it will be much more appropriate if we start with schooling. If we start with how we initially wanted this podcast to go. If you recall back to episode 2, my topic was about school and why is it so stressful and how to manage it. And I want to go back to that roots a little. So let's start. Straight lines, monitored eating, set up straight, locked in a room, activities you don't even like. Sounds awfully like a prison, right? Sounds awfully like a dystopia, right? However, it's not. It's called school, an outdated system still being used up to this day. Well, maybe before the pandemic. However, what if I told you you can navigate and manage this dystopia and make yourself a little utopia within it? Yes, schooling is difficult. Yes, schooling is an outdated system, but you can manage it. Now, as a quick disclaimer, I am not saying the system should be tolerated because it shouldn't be. School shouldn't be about people just doing what they're told, not being creative, just working with one another without any repercussions. It shouldn't be that way. It should be nurturing our ability to be creative. And I'm thankful that some schools already do that a lot of school acknowledges that. However, we can still see the remnants of the outdated system in our schools. And it is undeniable that it is very prominent. So, the question is, how do we navigate it? How do we help ourselves and navigate the system? So, what I want to share with you is my personal guide on how to navigate this vast array of difficulties and how to strategize school. Because bottom line is, school is a system. It's not something that is flexible. If you follow a certain set of rules in school, you will pass. And here are the methodologies on how you can successfully navigate school. And I'm not saying this is the main ways, but this is just for me. I want to share this with you because first and foremost, I want to go back to our roots. And second of all, because I think this is important because a lot of us are struggling in this area in our lives. So, to start off our topic, we have the fifth most important. And I'm not saying that this is fifth, this is the least important. But what I'm saying is, this is the first thing you should know. Is have breaks. Remember, breaks are not laziness. Breaks are not there for you to be in leisure. Rest and breaks are there to help you recover, to help your brain not to become too stressed for the situation. Why? Because breaks enhances your productivity by giving people rest. Look at the study made by Edutopia. We can see that breaks are actually really good for people. It lessens the risk of stress, which is the main hindrance in a lot of things, not just school. It's evident in jobs. It's evident in any situation in our lives, our spouses, our relationship, our friendships. Stress without breaks can be risky, can be detrimental to our health. That's why it's important to have breaks after a very long day or after a very hard test or project. And lastly, it strengthens the brain to not wear it out. Remember, it's not only the stress that we're looking at. The brain is a muscle, and like any muscle, it will break. It has the potential to be too stressed that it may short circuit. And I'm not saying that you will develop some sort of mental illness, but what I'm saying is that you will be less productive, that you will be less able to think properly, the same way as how you strain a muscle and then the next day you're gonna be unable to use it fully to its capacity. It's because you've used it too much, and that's why we need breaks. And next, ask questions. How is this higher than breaks? Well, if you ask questions, it expands your knowledge. It gives you a clearer picture of what's in hand. With those two, even without breaks, since now you're filled with the knowledge required for your task, you are now able to create a lot more things in a much shorter amount of time, because you're gonna lessen the time for research, you're gonna lessen the time for brainstorming, because you already know what you're gonna do, and you're not afraid if you're doing something wrong, if you're asking questions. If every single moment you feel in doubt, you can ask questions. And I know asking questions can be hard because people don't respond, or that it is too embarrassing because you feel like you're not listening. But if you do, it actually shows humility and it encourages trust. If you ask questions to your teacher kindly, it shows that you confide in them, and confiding in them makes them feel they are needed, which enables your teacher to be a better person in talking to you, to be a better informer, to be a better teacher. And once you ask questions, it shows humility, it gives you knowledge, and last but not the least, it gives you a clear picture of what's in hand. However, there's something higher than having breaks and asking questions. Something that can encompass both of them. And what is that? Starting early. Starting early. By that I mean the day it was given, start already. Why? Let's say the project is more or less 3 hours long to complete. Now, you know the project is hard and that 3 hours will be utilized. Every second of those 3 hours will be utilized. You shouldn't do it in one day because you would be so exhausted you're not gonna be able to do anything else. So how do you start early? So let's say you were given a 2-week notice on this project. So distribute it evenly. Let's say in 2 weeks you have 10 days. Let's exclude the weekends. Now let's divide the 3 hours. Let's turn the 3 hours into minutes. So that 3 hours multiplied by 60 will result to 180. Now divided by 10, you now get 18 minutes per day. 18 minutes out of an 8-hour rest is so minuscule. Therefore, you will have more time for your other projects. That is the goodness of starting early. You have longer time to plan. You have shorter time to spend on it on a per day basis. Plus, you have the ability to have more breaks in between, to have leisure, to have all those things. If you start early, you can also ask questions along the way, which will inform your teacher that you are actually doing. And next, review and master the lesson. It is important for you to review and master the lesson. Why? Remember the statistics that is saying 98% of what you learn in school you will forget or is useless? Well, a lesson is wasted if it's not given the right treatment. When your mentality is just to pass the next test, you're not gonna be able to utilize that lesson. And you might think, well, that lesson isn't important to real life. Sure, but it has some lessons in it that you can learn. For example, in math, you don't like math, you don't care about the numbers, but it also shows perseverance. Trying to solve the numbers shows that you are determined enough to solve something that you know that you are struggling with. And that's important. You should never waste a lesson. Now, let's go out of that ethical or philosophical position and let's become more objective. You tend to not forget and be more creative when you've mastered the topic. Let's reverse that. You tend to forget and be less creative when mastery is lacked. If you don't have mastery, you're not gonna be able to produce the best. Maybe you're asking yourself, why am I making projects that are not perfect even if I worked hard on it? Because you missed the part of mastering the topic. Let's say you have history. History can be seen as just a bunch of dates. However, if you master the history, you can see it more like a bubble in which certain things happen in certain areas in certain times. And you can create a Venn diagram to show that. You can create a string timeline. You can create a intersecting string timelines. And that is very creative. Why? Because you've mastered and reviewed the lesson. And lastly, for the review and master, you are unable to apply it. The reason a lot of people don't see the importance in school is because they don't master the topic and they don't understand the fundamentals of it. And if you master the topic, if you review it thoroughly, if you ask questions, if you start early, if you take breaks, you're gonna be able to apply it to your real life. And especially you're gonna get a better grade since you're gonna be able to answer all the essay questions, all the projects, all the recitations. It's gonna be important. And last but not the least, my pièce de résistance in my arsenal is always having a schedule. Why is it so important, and why do I always go back to this point? It's because schedules paint a clearer picture of the future. It gives you foresight and the ability to reorganize the plan. When you have a goal, you can have multiple plans to reach that goal. However, if you cannot see what's gonna happen on the next day, then you're not gonna be able to reach your goal since you have empty pieces. You have what I like to call plot holes in your plans. You have plot holes in your foresight. And because of that, you're not gonna be able to make clear decisions. But what if you know what tests you're gonna take tomorrow? What projects you're gonna submit? What projects you're gonna do? What lessons you're gonna study? And so on and so forth. If you know that, you're gonna be able to plan better. You have more information to work with. Additionally, it prepares you mentally. How many times have you been surprised by a test that was actually announced a week ago? Just imagine that dread, that fear. But let's say you have a schedule. Now you don't have that fear anymore. It's much less likely. It's little to no possibility of that happening. And lastly, it lessens stress because again, it paints a clearer picture and you can prepare mentally, so it lessens stress. And that is the important 5 steps that I found. And if you can master at least 3 of these things, you're good to go. However, you might think, Mark, you just did this episode just to show people your point of view. Not everyone is the same. Not everyone functions the same way. And I would agree. I would definitely agree on that standpoint that not everyone is the same and that we like different things and that we are not functioning the same way. And I completely agree. The school system is more of a system than a room for exploration. It is true, it is sad, but it is true. If you remember, I mentioned this already previously on episode 9 of this podcast, wherein I discussed how wrong and or outdated the schooling system is. It functions more like a factory rather than a learning facility. However, the topic today is learning to play that system enables you to survive and even dominate in it. That doesn't mean I agree or believe that the school system is good enough. No, I still do believe that the school should be updated to nurture individuality. But this episode is not about how to improve our school. It's not about how to better our school. It's about how to survive our current school system. However, sooner or later, we need to fix our school system. It shouldn't be about grades. It should be about effort. It should be the person with more grit, with more positive mindset. That should be the thing that is being taught. And you might say, no, I like school. I learn things from there. I have friends. I nurture my skills. Correct. If we really want to expand our talents, school can still be a viable place for that. However, hobbies are the way to go. If you can find what you want in school, you can always have hobbies. As of the moment, hobbies are the one that is gonna enable us to achieve our dreams. But for now, I want to thank you because if you made it this far, you're listening and you're actually taking down notes or mental notes of how to survive school. And if you like what you're hearing, I suggest and I would very much like to see that thumbs up down below. And if you really want more episodes of Think Out Loud, just click the subscribe button. If you're on Anchor, just give it a star. This is not just for likes, but it's actually for you guys. It's for you to learn. It's for you to understand. It's for me to share. It's for me to give voice. And thank you for listening. I hope you like it. And this is Mark Rebollido signing out.